Hi, this is BZ Rieger, and I am with a bunch of people who just came from the alleged sentencing hearing for RKB today on July 24th, 2018. I've got Sheila Corona and Lisa Rush and David Pierce and Suzie, I'm going to kill your last name, Wasilik.
Wasilik? How do you say your last name? Wasilik?
Wasilik?
Wasilik.
Yeah.
Wasilik.
Wasilik sounds
There you go.
So they're going to give us an update on what happened in the courtroom, and I'm just going to state what the judge said were the details. It was 120 months for count 1 through 5, and 155 months for count 6 through 7. The sentences will run concurrently, and there's 5 years supervised and a cap on his credit. Restitution in the amount of $510,589.02. And the whole idea of the fake Social Security number has vanished in perpetuity from the argument. So why don't you start by giving us an overview of how Randy looked, and did things flow in the order that they were laid out by Varlin, or did he shift things like Heather did?
Well, he looked fabulous. I have to say, he looked and felt wonderful.
Excellent.
And he's really happy. And it was really exciting to see him today. It was nice.
Good.
Yeah, so I saw him smiling and a twinkle in his eye. It reminds me of a picture that you used on several of the videos. Smiling. That's what it reminded me of.
Great.
Yeah, when I spoke to him right at the end, I have to say that Lisa was right. He not only looked great, but he felt great. And after it was all over, I have the distinct feeling that absolutely Big Randy was definitely in the house. And he feels the same as I feel, I think, because it was like there was a resonance there in that it won't be long now. And he knows that. I can tell he feels that.
Right, right. So I want to, as a programming note here, I want to pause this and just let everybody know that there you have proof that's been recounted by several people right here live on camera that all is not as it seems. So if it was as it seemed, then someone who just had the alleged Judge Varlin recite a verdict, you wouldn't be emanating those energy frequencies, the look on his face, or what he's saying. Okay, great. So, and did it run the same way as they had laid out in the script of the sentencing hearings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. And does anybody have a running time of it? Was an hour and 40 minutes, I think you said?
Yeah, right at. It has to be. I didn't have an exact timing, but Judge, I left my phone in the little cubby downstairs, and when I turned my phone on, the first text was from you, and it was 11:01 a.m. is when my phone looked like it received it. So it didn't feel like it was, an hour and 40 minutes, because it started at 10.
Okay.
No, I got there at 10:30, and there was about 20 minutes left that I saw. So it was probably just under an hour, I would say.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that. But definitely not an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, well, when the minutes come out here soon and I'll publish them, we'll have the actual official timestamp on it.
Right.
And
yeah, I'm excited to see what that is.
Yeah. just a note, as I was telling Sheila, that that Q's timestamp on the new post, he hasn't posted since the 4th, so 20 days. And this is also an anniversary of the Sacred Service. But at 10:45.27 EST, which sounds like it was just about the right same time that the hearing concluded.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Fascinating.
as
Okay.
a puzzle piece collector, I have to say that's a huge puzzle piece for me. Anyone that watches this and is following Q, come on, we've all been waiting for Q to post something, and he hasn't until right at the same time this is over. Okay, everybody else, anybody, things are just not what they seem.
So why don't you give us an overview? What do you each? Because we'll get from certain person's notes that she takes amazing notes. So we'll have the linear chapter and verse perfectly. But why don't each let's go around and each one of you tell me what you feel was what stood out for you. It doesn't matter, whatever is coming for you that stood out.
Don't everybody jump at once?
Lisa, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess for me it was how confident and calm Randy was. I mean, honestly, I think everything else kind of went the way I expected it to. Kind of the way it has been, where everybody just forges forward with their agenda no matter what they're being told over and over. But I was really surprised and impressed by Randy. That alone, Randy's confidence and the glow that he had would make me feel very nervous.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that Davidson was probably very surprised at Randy's demeanor.
Yeah, and she did a lot of shaking and fidgeting with the feet. So it felt to me that the people who normally would be the most relaxed in the room were not.
Right.
Yeah, it was everybody had swapped roles.
Right. Cool. Okay, David, give us your impression that comes to mind.
Like I said, I got in there at about 10:30. There was I was a little bit late, and then there was a line of folks to get in through the X-ray thing or what have you. But yeah, when I walked in, I didn't really know what to expect, and the first time I caught Randy's eye, it was the twinkle from and I didn't know. I was worried. I didn't know if he was going to be upset or I just didn't really know what to expect. So I was pleasantly surprised when he seemed in great spirits, and even as the months were being doled out or what have you, it just kind of seemed to roll right off of him. So that was great, and it was great to see him smiling.
Great.
Definitely. And it's funny that you mentioned Q. I had seen on Twitter yesterday that someone had posted a picture of a billboard, and I didn't realize that I saw it this morning on the way into Tennessee. It was near Varnell or Varnelli or something like that, Tunnel Hill, Georgia, and it was said QAnon. It was a black billboard. It said QAnon, and then under it said "Truth is Freedom." So anyway,
cool.
Kind of neat. Yeah.
Interesting. So as you were so this was as you were entering Tennessee?
It was just on about 10 miles outside of Tennessee. But I had seen it on Twitter yesterday, and I didn't realize that it was close to me. And someone had posted it, and I was like, we're everywhere. So that was cool to see.
Interesting.
Suzie, give us what your thoughts are.
She's asking you to give us your thoughts on how it went? Or
My thoughts, well, like I said, it was as I expected. I expected to be, to have 150 plus months. And last week was even more grueling. Heather's thing was 3 hours to listen to what the judge already had planned.
right.
It was pretty lame and sad. And Heather, and the communication between Heather and Yusuf was pretty difficult. He was crying, and he said she was crying too. All I could see was the back of her face and the little inmate on the back.
So today was totally different.
And today, Randy was like happy. I got there a little late too. There was a lot of people in line. And by the way, the people, I get so flustered when I go in line because they have to on me because I've already got artificial knee and a hip, and so I left my license behind. And when I came back, they said, "Oh, here you go. Your license is here." And then I looked around and I couldn't find it. So I told them I was going to send them to jail. Stealing my license.
Nice.
And that has nothing to do with anything, but I'm here. Appreciate you, BZ. I can't hear what you're saying.
I love you, Susie.
Deaf anyway.
She says she loves you. She says she loves
I
you.
love you too.
Yep.
So Sheila, what's your impression?
Well, I concur with everything everyone said about Randy. Absolutely. I found it interesting, however, that today, Duran and Still were on hand, where they weren't last week. Only Jason Pack.
And he was not there today, right? Jason Pack was not there
No,
today.
Jason Pack was not there today.
Yeah.
However, like I said, Parker Still and
Duran.
I guess Special Agent, whatever his name is, Duran, was there today. And there also seemed to be quite a few extra folks in tow. There was a total of 7 young people that sat directly behind the counselors for the United States. And Lisa and I kind of thought maybe they might be interns of some sort, because they were all very, very young people. Behind them on the very last row were the feller who is sort of attached to the FBI, cyber, sort of attached to Tennessee University, the guy who sort of testified. He was there with 2 other unidentified fellers in the very back. There was also some unidentified folks sitting again over at the side table, that we determined last time that maybe they're the new blood at the DOJ. I don't know who they are. They did not specify who those folks were, of course. And there was another interesting observer that we couldn't put our finger on as to who that gentleman was either. But overall, I agree with what was said in regards to, it seemed like folks were expecting Randy to behave in a particular way that Randy didn't behave in the way they thought. That's the feeling that I got. And so, and I agree, and that was the biggest thing that I noticed. All pretense that they used during the court trial in front of the jury in regards to, one number being off was never even referred to in any of the sentencing, not last week, not this week.
Yep.
They just stated out. You'll see in the minutes, or not the minutes probably, but in the transcript, the judge specifically stated using the Federal Reserve routing number and his Social Security number. He purchased all of these things. And I wrote a note for myself. I asked the one question anyone who wants to try to poo-poo any of this needs to ask themselves. I'll stay by that. Even if you want to claim the money's not yours, doesn't anybody want to know why the Federal Reserve has your Social Security number and a routing number attached to it? I don't know. That's just an observation of my own. But
so tell us, can you give us a sense of how Randy spoke? So the first time he spoke, he was doing it as pro se?
Yes, the first time he spoke, of course, was to address the court that they do not have jurisdiction, still and yet, and to reiterate standing, let me see, I wrote it down here, wanted to reiterate the declaration of the standing declarations previously made, and he listed off, again, all of the precipes and the doc numbers to support him in the fact that they have no jurisdiction for this alleged proceeding and charges and all of that. And pretty much that's what he stuck to throughout the entire thing.
Did they have a separate hearing or roll it into one when they tried to get him to contract again on the coach?
They did not do a separate hearing. However, Cynthia Davidson stated it in court in regards to the motion of forfeiture. And denoted, of course, again, Warling claimed that jurisdiction, he already ruled on that and rejected Randy's statement. And then he also noted that there was a previously entered document number 224 prior to today, in which they were talking about the forfeiture of the RV. And so apparently there was already something prior, and Cynthia Davidson mentioned that it needed to be orally entered into open court. She, I guess, reminded the judge of something. I'm not quite sure, as I didn't understand all of that. But in answer to any of those kinds of questions, whenever he was asked, did he understand, he just reiterated that they have no jurisdiction and that he stood behind that.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for a second. David, maybe while Sheila's talking, if you want to just tell Lisa she's not on camera anymore. She's disappeared.
Yeah, I think her phone died. Lisa, did your phone completely die? Yeah, it's something to do with Zoom.
Okay, well, just if she wants, she can come over by Sheila.
Yeah, come over here, sweetie.
Anyways, keep going, Sheila. So on the forfeiture of the coach, just a little background. They actually had a document. Maybe we haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. 224. They were trying to get him to sign that. When Randy was in the Knox detention, and he said, don't consent.
You mean
it's a way to contract.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're trying to share headphones. Yeah. Well, I don't know. See, she mentioned they mentioned document 224. They didn't say anything about trying to get him to sign anything.
Right.
I wrote it down because of the whole mentioning that it was previously entered prior to the hearing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying was probably that's why they probably mentioned that, although without any details. Because
it was. I knew something was up when I heard her say that. I was like, that was weird.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they were trying to get him to sign it today or within the last few days?
Yes.
Or, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because that would have been, if he'd signed it, that would have been acceptance of an offer to contract, and then they actually would have had jurisdiction if he'd done it.
Ah, I see.
Wow.
So it was a last minute, slip it in, whatever your notebook is. So, and the other thing, just a note for people who may not understand, one of the reasons that just put your notebook down, Sheila.
Okay, sorry.
With the coach, Randy actually has, and I don't remember the exact wording on it, but in all essence, he's got the birth certificate for the coach RV.
Wow.
Not many people know this, but basically, and it's got a certain word, which I can't remember, but it's a birth certificate for any vehicle. And those all go, like the rest of birth certificates, to the Vatican. And so they hold it as they do land and you and everything else. That's part of the whole way the system works. And so, but he was able to actually get this certificate before it went off. So he absolutely has all of it. And they're hoping they want that back too, because they can't do anything with the vehicle because they don't have any clear title or anything on it. So I just want to make that little note on that.
Is that the MCO? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it the NCO? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But most people, that wouldn't mean any difference. So if I say birth certificate of the vehicle, it makes more sense.
Right.
Cool.
So what else did Randy say? Anything else you can go over for us in the part of his pro se?
Actually, no. Randy actually just stuck to his guns in regards to the fact that they didn't have jurisdiction. There was that was pretty much it as far as that was concerned.
He obviously objected to the Senate saying, he said you don't have jurisdiction, and then requested to file the appeal.
Right. Okay. And tell us about what he said at his last, so requested to file the appeal would be the very last thing, because that's after sentencing. What did he say in his elocution?
And his allocution was pretty much the same thing, actually. Yeah. He didn't say much of anything, at all. Just that, again, stating that all of the documents that he had, put forth before were still standing, and that they didn't have jurisdiction to do the charges or anything else. Seems to me like there was something.
He called out, restated or what have you. I think it was 147 through 152. I wrote it down, but I think it was 4 or 5 documents there at the end, and then he said, you don't have jurisdiction. So that's the only thing I remember specifically him saying.
Right.
Before
and all press of face, just all the standing docs.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so from listening to what you all have said and the impressions that you're giving off of the whole energetics in the courtroom, there are a lot more people in general who were there than before, and seem to be a lot more people who would be in the quote unquote suits department, unidentified, unknown.
Yes.
That Randy was all in the courtroom today, and that because of that and how he showed up and the energetic frequency neighborhood that he was in, a lot of other people who were officially in the courtroom were having a squirmy time with that.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just a subtle energetic, because nobody really behaved all that different. Other than, like I said, there was just a general anxiety.
Very muted.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we were back and forthing with Randy as we were leaving that we didn't think it was going to be long. And I could feel like the energy of the room was just, everybody was quiet and they were totally tuned in to our little exchange.
Especially the very last little exchange that I had with them.
And what was that? Can you share that?
I'd be happy to. Because as we were leaving, and Randy said, you know, hopefully I'll get to hug you all soon. And I said, yeah, I don't think it's going to be very long, darling. I said, in between last week and this week, there's been a few moves that look to me like things are being positioned. So I don't think you're going to have too much longer. And I could tell, because you know me, I'm not quiet. Not very subtle. Not very quiet. Everybody in the room heard what I had to say. And I felt a subtle shift in the energetics from those suits in the room. I didn't use any names. However, Randy did. Something about Trump. And yeah, I think he's been making
that he's getting messages.
Yeah, that he's getting messages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been getting messages.
Wait, one at a time. David, say what you said again. He's what?
I think he said that, I forget who he was talking to, but someone was walking out of the courtroom and he was laughing and he said, yeah, I've been getting messages. He's been sending me messages or something like that.
Yeah.
Speaking about Trump.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting. And then Randy also thanked these guys for the books and things that he's received. And just seemed really thankful and grateful for us being there and supporting him. And so it's kind of interesting that we just heard the sentence and
and now just heard the sentence and now just chatting. He's confidently, happily chatting.
Yes.
So it was great.
He's glad to see me because I write him really constantly.
Right. Well, you know, it's when you're a bully, it's really hard if the people that you're bullying don't get upset and pouty and dour and crying and oh my God, you know, it takes the
And Patricia went over and spoke to shook their hands. Actually, for the I guess the marshals that were there on Randy's side, and then I saw her go over and speak and shake the hands of Still and Duran. And there was another person over there as well. So I don't know what they talked about, but yeah, doing her diplomacy. So
excellent. Okay, I just want to finish up by reading on camera. We had an email from Heather this morning, which I put on the update page. The timestamp, I'll read it, although they mess with the times when they send and whatever. It's from Heather to me, 7/24/2018 at 4:06:02 a.m. Perfect and perfectly done. 10, how beautiful. And that refers to something that you'll all see very soon here. I can't disclose till I publish it and you see it. Barlin et al. Are in checkmate. In order to ship me off, the clerk has to issue a certified copy of a valid and lawful judgment, but they don't have one. And it is a matter of record, public and other. They attempt to ship me off, then their personal actions of fraud, human trafficking, slavery, collusion, subversion, conspiracy, and human rights abuses, too many to list, against me are obvious and a matter of record. RKB the same. Actors discussing what to do. This is my 7/24 Tuesday a.m. check-in. Happy anniversary to the Secret Service. Love you. Love all.
Wow. That's incredible.
So
delicious.
Checkmate.
It is quite delicious.
Yeah.
all right, well, thank you very much for the wrap-up. I'll get this published, and then I'm going to get to work on the other things that will be published momentarily.
Thank you, darling.
Thank
so
you
appreciate you
for everything.
Much love,
Thank
guys.
you.
Much love.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Much love. Bye.